Hi everyone, I'm Mark,
And I'm Alex.
and this is Final Stop for Final Fantasy Talks. Welcome back everyone to our third episode. We're still in Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age, and today we're really going to kind of just be focusing on the hunts, rare game, gambits, that sort of thing. And so, just starting it right off with hunts. Basically, the way that Alex and I wanted to approach this was like, so to make these hunts as hard as possible. Some of them are just already, hard no matter what. But to make, especially the early on ones, as hard as possible, we're kind of going at this with like just as soon as they are available to pick up. Boom, pick them up, go try them. And so we kind of just we composed like a small list of ones that we found particularly challenging. For example, starting off with me, I chose the flowering cactoid, which is, I think it's like the second hunt. But I a lot of the hunts, especially early on, I never did this. I never went, for them right away. I always kind of would backtrack and just knock them all out. So with the flowering cactoid, I picked it up and I went and did it, and it was like it was shockingly difficult. Like I didn't understand what the heck was going on. And the problem with him is because you only have Vaughn and Pinello at that point, right? So you just have Vaughn, just Pinello. You got like no magic pretty much. The cactoid itself is just parries like infinitely. It just sits there. That's all it does is parries your attacks. And so
just evades everything.
yeah, and so you're lucky if you're getting 1 out of 4 hits. And so that's an issue. You're also, of course, you're at starter gear. You don't have really hardly any licenses. Just for kind of some backtracking to, like, Vaughn and Pinello were both Shikari is pretty much what they were. I think Vaughn was a knight, but I couldn't even use a sword yet because I didn't have it unlocked. But regardless, really hard. You get him down, and then he runs away in potions, and so it's like, oh my god, it just keeps going on. So that one,
I didn't even know that he did that. That's kind of interesting. You learned something new because I literally, I mean, I've taken him on at low levels too, but I totally forgot that he does the potion thing and can heal up.
potion, yeah, and as far as I know, he will just keep doing it. I don't know. He did it probably like 2 or 3 times for me. Maybe that's the max or something, but. Yeah, finally got him down. It was the pain in the butt. But so yeah, flowering cactoid was, like I said, very surprising. But then again, like I said, I've never actually gone and fought him with just a 2-party. It's always been like full, and then you kind of stomp it, and so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you go into that fight after your party escapes Barheim. I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah,
yeah, Barheim. Because then you've got Bosch as a guest, so you've actually got a 4-person party, which is
yeah,
pretty. At that point, that battle, that's usually when I take it on because it makes it so much easier, because then when he uses 1,000 needles, you're fine
yep.
because you've got, 3 other people or something. So,
And that's the thing. Yeah, he
but
did use 1,000 needles and
oh, dude,
killed Penelope. And the thing that sucks
yep,
is like because it is so early on, like my item stock was very low. I mean, I barely even have enough potions. Penella did have cure, but it didn't do enough. She was like constantly just out of MP because cure was just eating it up, and So, anyways, pretty hysterical.
hmm
But what's one that you got?
one that always gets me is Nidhogg, which is first available once you get to Bujerba, I believe.
Right.
And if you take it on at that point with, say, like before you, well, actually, I can't remember how it works with Larsa.
I think
I
it's
think,
after Larsa. I think
right,
it's once you get out of the mine.
right. Okay, so either way, though, I mean, I looked up some information on this too, and a lot will say arguably the toughest rank one hunt, which I could agree with because this guy is really, really annoying. I mean, especially as far as rank one, like he can poison your characters. He uses that one attack that does a lot of damage and also slows your characters. And then of course, the typical thing with a lot of these hunt monsters and a lot of the rare game, they get down to low HP. They get a huge defense boost. They get a
Yeah.
huge attack boost. He uses Saber, which doubles his attack power. That's pretty OP. I mean, I always like to think too with this kind of stuff. Imagine if you had the ability to
Yeah.
cast these kinds of things. Like, they have
Yeah.
zero CT. They can cast it instantly. So, but yeah, he's a real tricky one. And with that one, I noticed at low levels, like you've got to cast slow on him. You absolutely slow is just so useful for,
Yeah.
especially when he goes into, critical mode. He starts busting off like 3, 4, 5 hit combos. So slow and keeping protect on your party pretty much
Yeah.
is just really critical.
Yeah. No, well, and it's slow. Slow actually affects like quite a bit of things that you would think that
Yeah,
maybe it wouldn't. Like a lot of bosses
yeah,
are
it's one of the
susceptible
most
to
useful.
slow and stuff in this game. Usually a lot of bosses in the prior Final Fantasies, like it just they'd be immune to stuff like that, and so that is kind of cool. The next one, keeping it for me, or the next one for me, keeping it in Bajurba is actually the Rock Toys, which you get at the same time as the Nidhogg, and I remember because I picked them up, same thing. Now, actually, so going back to when you get them, I actually don't know. We'd have to test this out. I don't know if you walk into the mines and then just walk back out and go to the. I don't know if it would be there, like right, because usually the hunts become available once you get to new areas.
Oh
So,
yeah.
so I don't know. I didn't try that. Like I said, I only tried after I completed the mine
I
in Larsa left. So
Yeah, I can't remember when. I think it becomes available after, and
and then you go back
that's
in.
that's
Yeah.
one that you have to get from Mont Blanc, right?
Yes. Yep.
It's like
Rock
an elite
Toys. It
hunt,
is
technically, or
the.
something like that.
Yep. It's one of the elite marks. It's the first one. And so my issue was so right. I went into it. I killed off Nidhogg, and then I continued on to go to Rock Toys. And
Yeah,
I mean, keep in mind, I don't even know what level the party is. Still, very low. Um,
probably like 10, 12, or
yeah,
something like that.
yeah, it's got to be around there. And so I went into them, and I got completely stomped. I think it's just one of those where the fight is going to be almost impossible for where you're at. Clearly, you can do it, but I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, like, Vaughn, again, he was a knight. At that point, I had my full party pretty much. I didn't have Ash yet, but at Balthier as a Shikari, which that's what I wanted him as. Vaughn was a knight, and then I don't know. I think I was just using Fran or something, for cure
Yeah.
or whatever. But regardless, I had two dudes in there with shields, and Vaughn had heavy armor, and like
Oh
he
yeah,
was
yeah.
literally getting pretty much one shotted. Like the Rock Toys would turn around, hit Vaughn, and almost kill him. I mean, it'd be very close. Some of the other ones he would just kill flat out, and so it's kind of meanwhile his health is like just getting pecked at. It's just like
Yeah.
barely moving. Once again,
Yeah. He
you
has a
almost
lot of health.
he has a lot of health, and then once again, you don't really have any much magic at this point. Now, here is the thing: I think if I did have a black mage at that point, maybe that would have helped. So a lot of these things, and again, this is for us. We're saying we had trouble with these. Well, this is just our experiences. So anyone listening, I mean, you may be rocking it out, and good for you. But for us, at this point, like I said, my party comp wasn't probably ideal.
Yeah.
But regardless, I don't think you're going to get around that health thing. I mean, just 2, 3 hits for sure, and he would kill someone. And so,
Yeah.
I just ran away and came back a little bit later.
Right. No, he has a lot of health. And then I was going to bring up too another thing I've noticed with Rock Toys that drives me crazy because I try to take him on. Kind of exactly like how you did it, where you take out Nidhogg first, with both in the same place, or basically Nidhogg's on the way. So
Right.
take out Nidhogg, go to Rock Toys, but he uses that power spin move
Yeah.
that will hit all of your characters that are surrounding him. So you really like you have to have a black mage or some sort of ranged attacker, and even then, that move, dude, I don't even think it misses. I'm not sure that shields do anything against that, and he just like starts using that constantly,
Yeah, especially towards
doing
the end.
about right, doing like 200 damage a pop or something.
Yeah, well, and something I forgot to mention too for that is because it's so early on, you only have Cure. There's no Cura. And so when those area effect attacks do go off, you're pretty much having to have everyone just use potions
Yep.
because, I mean, your healer that's carrying is going to take forever to
Right.
heal
And
your whole entire party. And so, yeah, it's a tough one, man. A
yeah.
lot of those elite marks, when you get them, they're pretty darn tough when you get them at
Yeah,
first availability.
they definitely live up to their name for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, seriously, like you only have cure, which at the very beginning of the game heals for what, like
Oh,
150,
it sucks.
180, something like that. And then potions, you might have a couple high potions if you're lucky with drops or I mean I'm not sure, I can't remember, but and then potions, even with your potion lures will do like 100, 110, 120. So yeah, it gets that battle, he gets the defense boost and then it gets hard to keep up with the damage.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
one that an elite hunt that I always have a really hard time with, and I know a lot of people have a hard time with this hunt, is the elite mark Cluckatrice and the three Chickatrice that come with it, which of course they don't tell you about.
No.
So that's nice, But yeah, man, every time I've tried to take this guy on, it's crazy
It's kind of a
because
wake up
you'll
call.
see. Yeah, I mean, well, first off, you've got the parameters to get it to spawn, which is kind of weird. Like, it would be hard to find it because you have to kill all the enemies in that area and then leave
Yeah.
and go back in and he's there. Um, First thing you see is just one of the Chickatrice, and then as soon as you start attacking that, they all come in there.
Yep.
So you've got four on three typically at this point. And it is absolutely brutal. I mean, not only does it do a lot of damage, the Cluckatrice, but he uses Mucus, which does like it does a lot of damage.
It
It also
does.
induces
Yeah.
slow. He's got the Stone Stare move. Um, at this point you don't have Stona, and I'm not even sure if you have Gold Needles. I can't remember,
I
but
I think you do have gold needles available.
yeah. Um, but the best things that I found out with this, I mean, again, slow and like what you were saying, slow is just it's almost OP in this game because of just everything can be inflicted with slow.
Yeah.
Everything. It's the one thing that, like what you said, pretty much works on everything in the game. Definitely all the main storyline bosses. But one of the things I actually I'd like to take credit for, but I didn't really know. I think I saw this in a video was disable, and is so useful because disable's an AoE spell,
Yeah.
and you just sit there. The only problem at this point is MP. It is really you do start to run out of MP, so you got to use some ethers and things like that, and
Or
usually
control
you
the
have to.
person, run in
Yeah,
circles.
you got to do all that kind of stuff. You've got to try and just because disable takes like 16 MP if I'm not mistaken, or something around there.
Right.
But the nice thing about it, yeah, it doesn't hit all the time, but if it at least hits some of the Chickatrice, and eventually you get the Cluckatrice, and then you just have to take them down one by one. Once you get the first couple of Chickatrice down, you're pretty much good from there. But another thing I want to add in with this isn't my preferred method, but this works for a lot of these as well, especially once they get into the HP critical. Quickenings is the other easy way to take them out.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's that is definitely, like I said, it's always a check. I always go into that and forget about you know the mucus and the petrify, and I'm like, ah, gosh.
Yeah,
Um,
you'll like set up the gambits in the middle of the battle and everything just to
yeah,
try and compensate.
or go to the store and pick up some gold needles real quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say the next one that really gave me some issues a little further along, and that was Merilith, that serpent, right, in the caverns. And
Yep.
um I think it's at like a perfect storm of crappiness for your characters at that point. Meaning, like, you know, for instance, Meryl, it's immune to wind or air. You know, so arrow doesn't do anything. It absorbs fire, and that is actually, you just get Fyra, so you know that is your strongest magic at that point. But you don't want to use it because it's going to heal him. And it's weak to water, so Aqua is your best bet. And Aqua, as we all know, is garbage. Like, it is
Especially
so
at that
bad.
point in the game.
Yeah, but it does the most out of the magics, and so you know it's about 700. So what that does is, you know, usually with a lot of these bosses, having a mage using black magic is your best bet. It really kind of is, especially when they get to the critical stage, because they get those physical, you know, buffs that, you know, your attacks just start doing almost nothing, you know, but meanwhile magic is still doing full. And so anyway, so Aqua, you know, is best to go with. But the problem with him is he attacks very quickly, so he attacks very frequently. He does a lot of damage, and so I mean it was a tough fight. The only good thing I guess with that is when you grab it when it's very first available, you do have Larsa, so that is kind of a little bit of help at least. I usually just had him on Kira nonstop, which I mean was made a big difference. But he was just hard, and of course, like everyone else, when he gets to critical stage, man, he just starts going berserk. He just, the combos are through the roof. I struggled. I almost gamed over at that point because he was just comboing. Like, it was literally just a nonstop attack is pretty much what it was. He'd kill someone and hurry up, try to get up while that person's, you know, getting revived. He killed someone else, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm sitting there just doing like just round robin with him, with reviving the people he's killing. And so no, that was an intense fight, that's for sure.
It'd be so interesting to maybe in like one of these later episodes when we return to Final Fantasy 12, we can talk about some of the parameters that go into the attacks. Because I swear, man, I mean, yeah, like what you're saying, when they get into HP critical, they get 4-5 hit combos almost every single time. I mean, it's at least like 60-70% of the time, which is pretty insane because, you know, with this game, even when you have like a katana or a ninja blade or something like that, man.
That never happens.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Sometimes you'll get combos that are pretty good, but these guys just bust off like 6-8 hit combos, and especially the snake ones, like Merilith.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel you with that.
Yep.
Next one for me, this one's actually really early too, is Ringworm. And
yeah,
I think it's like a Mark III or something like that, but just got an insane amount of health. I've never taken it on when it's first available. What about
I
you?
have.
Have you ever tried that one?
It is, let's see, I got the guide right in front of me for all you fun-loving people. It is a or a rank 3, like you said, yes. Level 32 is where it is. Now see, here's the thing. I took it on right when it was available, and I did not have any issue. But you and I were talking about this, I think, yesterday, about how I think my party is starting to get very, very strong. To give some background, if you guys listened to our past episode, we talked about kind of like if you were going to do a 100% run, you know, what were the 3 characters? You only get 3 characters, what were you going to choose? And so I'm using that. I did that. I started, and I'm doing it. And I'm happy to say it's working out very well. But I did take him on. The problem is, it's like you said, man. He has 128,000 health, is what he has, which at that level is insane. To give like some just context, Merilith, like we just talked about, has 55,000. So
right, and that's a rank 5.
Yeah, and that's a rank 5. And so yeah, no, Rainworm is crazy.
Right, he has a bunch of annoying status attacks. I think he's got Disable, Sap, Immobilize is one I always remember. I mean, with him, it might not be the worst, you know, negative status to get hit with,
right,
but Disable is a must. So like, I know that I always have my guys with the black belt for that. I usually don't bother with Sap. It's like Sap is one of those things that you have to keep that damage output high. So you just keep attacking and just ignore that kind of stuff. But yeah, ringworm's a real tough one. And then kind of the kick in the teeth with this one too that I never understand is the reward sucks. Like I don't even
It does.
understand. You know, you get 200 gil, a moon ring, which is okay. I think it's good for like a bazaar item, something like
Yeah.
that. But and then an ice brand. It's
Yeah, it's
like
not very
by
good.
the time you kill this guy, I don't even think ice brand is useful anymore, to be honest.
No.
But yeah, so that one's really tough. And then of course I gotta bring up I think this one for a lot of people as well. I mean, you know, Roblon. I know a bunch of
Yeah.
people are gonna feel me on this one. If you take on Roblon early, and I think he's a rank, I'm guessing on all of these, I think he's like rank 6, something like that. But yeah, just absolute
Yep,
pain.
break sinks.
Absolute pain. Because you've got that little area that first you have to find where he's at, which isn't even that easy. It's like an off the map area and all
No,
that.
yeah. I forget about that each time where it's at.
Right. Yep, same here. I forgot this last time. I was like, I know you just kind of like walk off the map at this one place.
Yeah.
But you know, as everybody can attest to, the biggest problem with this guy, he's not actually that tough. It's that you constantly have those skeletons respawning everywhere. I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous. They come up in like threes or fours or
Yeah,
something
well,
like that.
yeah, it's they will come up infinitely. So it's actually pretty funny because um you and I were talking about this. I mean, this is a few weeks back. It was after our second episode, but I was on my previous save game. I was trying to power level, and so also just kind of side note to anyone, that area where Roblon's at. Of course, we're talking about this is the what
Navier's
Nabarese,
Deadlands.
well, yeah, the Deadlands, whatever the heck they're called, but
Yeah.
it's that spot in like we said, the skeletons. So I actually did that. It's very nice with Zodiac Gauge. You have the ×4 speed boost if you so chose, and so I did that, and I went in there and I found out that there will be 50 skeletons that will spawn in there. And I know this because like I just with the 4 times I knocked out 30 minutes of doing that, and I built up a 450 chain, right? Because I would just go
Yeah.
in, kill them all, zone back out, and it's 50. It's exactly 50. That's insane. And on that note too, now a lot of now he is starting to get up there. So the ranks, rank 6s and above and all that stuff, like a lot of those fights, it starts to kind of get to a point where you get them very early, and I'm not entirely sure like you were meant to go do it right then. I don't know. It is a challenge. I mean, because I think it was the first episode, man, you and I were talking how I accidentally went in there and I was like, oh yeah, this place, and I was
Yeah.
like level like mid 30s, and I was walking around, not even in the Roblon zone, and those skeletons were kicking my butt, man, just
Yeah.
absolutely throwing me down, and that was like ones and twos because they're like
Well,
they're like level 46 7, and they're
they're really
shielded.
tough.
Yeah, they do a lot of damage.
They're really tough. I went in there at I like what you were saying though. I think the levels once you get to the 5 and 6, that's kind of getting into level 30, almost level 40, depending on. I mean, it is tough to take these guys on at the right time because you're gonna get those that the rank fives that are closer to level like mid 30s, and then the
Yep.
sixes. It varies, but yeah, those guys are tough anyways. I mean, the skeletons are tough alone. And one of the things I thought was so difficult with this is they all use rank 2 elemental magic. So it gets pretty insane, man. You just have like a melee. He's using fire on you constantly, Roblon, and
Yep.
and then they're constantly using Blazara. They use flash to hit you with blind. You can't protect all the statuses that they hit you with.
No.
They're just so annoying. So you get caught in these loops. And then the other problem that I experienced with this at low level, I mean, dude, it was painful. I was so close to beating him, but they just too many skeletons spawned. It was my healer. I wasn't controlling them, and they keep moving around and respawning them
In
down that
spawn.
little
Yep.
pathway. And then they'll run up the path and they'll come and like start beating up on my white mage and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So Plus, he uses fear, which reduces your MP to 0. And one other thing that I just have to add on that was so annoying is he gets to HP critical, he starts moving around in a circle, and then basically your character start moving and you start drawing in more skeletons. So
Yeah.
it's just it's hard to keep up with the damage that they put on your party.
it's it's crazy. It's nonstop. It's funny because it's like, some skeletons will pop up, and then your character moving in to kill that skeleton pops up more skeletons in the process, and so it's never ending. I think the best tactic to try, at least, I mean, like you said, everyone starts moving around. It just becomes too impossible. Is to kind of just go in that back corner away from the ramp, so that way you don't pull any there. But regardless, if you're doing this one right when you pick it up, good freaking luck, man. It is.
Yeah.
It
Well,
is just
and I
so
just gotta
tough.
say, that's what was so funny was I had the character that I was controlling way on the other side, right? Like by the cliff.
Yeah.
But my healer, Pinello, she went over to that side, like at the top, and then it spawned them at the bottom of the ramp. Because she was in like proximity, and they just
Yeah.
ran up and then joined it from there. It's like, dude, stop moving over there.
Yeah, keep spotting them.
That was so painful,
It's
man.
it's tough,
like,
man.
what are you doing?
It's tough, and kind of on that note too of keeping it like with some of these fights that just are annoying because like they themselves are kind of difficult, but it's also just because there's so many different ads around, like the Vorpal bunny. If you're going into that side, right when you're able to, it's pretty tough. I mean, the levels jump by like
Hated
10
it.
or 15. Like it's a pretty substantial. What are they, hellhounds? It's a pretty substantial jump,
Yeah, the
and
Hellhounds and then the
the
Quails,
corrals,
the
yeah,
Quills.
yeah,
I
and
can't remember
so
what type they are, but yeah.
no, and so obviously the best tactic for this is to try to go in from the opposite side of where the mark spawns in and just clear everything out first. And keep in mind too, if you zone out and then right back in, usually it does spawn them again. But if you do that like 2-3 times, they will stop spawning, and so just kind of a nice trick to do. But yeah, I
Well,
mean, him and there's a few of them. Him and like Trickster, the ones that move around a lot are just so annoying.
I got something to add on to that though. What happened to me, I don't know why, but once I cleared everybody out, I just had a bunch of skeletons spawning.
Okay, I didn't know
I
that.
don't know if that happened to you. Yeah, that is exactly what happened to me and actually made it worse. So, be interested to see if that happens every
Yeah,
time.
that's
I didn't
interesting.
remember that happening,
No,
but
I don't recall
yeah,
that.
when I tried that the first time, because I tried at a pretty low level, and Vorpal Bunny is tough. I think I just kept using Blazara with my red mage and stuff like that because I couldn't hit him. He just
Yeah.
runs like you
So
can't even keep up. So
interesting thing that I just read about it, because again I got I got Strategy Guide in front of me, is Strategy Guide actually recommends using Berserk on it. Now here's the thing,
oh
Strategy
yeah.
Guide is from the original 12, and unlocking abilities and magics and stuff do not match up whatsoever. So I don't know if you even have Berserk at this point, but
That's a nice strategy, though.
yeah, because
I honestly didn't think of that.
no, I mean I mean, we just talked about this yesterday, man. Like Berserk, I never use
Uh,
Berserk ever.
the only times I ever do is, I'll put haste and protect on my physical attacker and hit him with Berserk just to.
Yeah,
'Cause then they can put a lot of
they start
damage.
going to town. Yeah,
But
so
using it on enemies, it always seems like kind of a double-edged sword.
yeah, you're forcing it to attack you, but it's gonna come
Does a lot
at
more
you with an
damage.
iron fist.
Right, they do a lot of damage and they hit twice as fast.
Yeah. Well, we got one last one. What do you got there?
Crocodile. And I don't know if anybody else had this. I don't know. I mean, because we were talking about it, and for whatever reason, I had a hard time with this when I first took it on. I think it becomes, or at least the first time you take it on is like right after Tomb of Wraithwall
Yep.
at Giza in the Rains.
Yep, first time
And,
around.
right, he's not that tough. It's just when they get down to HP critical, he uses Growing Threat. doubles his level, and then I couldn't keep up with the damage. And I was trying to like, I think at this point I gave up on using decoy, but it was
Yeah,
kind of that point of the game where I didn't have maximized armor and equipment. I think I just couldn't afford it at that point, to equip
gotcha.
everybody with like the best stuff. So that could have had something to do with it. We didn't have the best weapons necessarily, but yeah, he's tough. I mean, doesn't do anything special. It's just for the simple reason that when they get to HP crit, they just go crazy. They start
They do.
hitting really hard. I mean, double level 2, I'm pretty sure that makes him like level 50 or 60 or something like that. So, yeah, that's the last one that I could. I mean, there's definitely some later ones, but I think the problem with the later ones for me is that um, at that point I'm a little bit too OP. Like
Yeah.
I don't think I take them on as soon as I can, and so
Yeah.
they all kind of become a little bit easier from there.
Well, we kind of talked about this yesterday too, how the beginning hunts, for the most part, a lot of them are pretty challenging, but it's just because you just don't have a whole lot of weapons at your disposal. You don't have a lot of the magics and stuff. And so once you start getting that stuff, the middle of the game hunts are actually usually very easy. I mean, you'll get the ones that kind of put you in your place, but for the most part, they're very easy. But then you got the end game ones, and that's just because you get them at the end of the game. You're like level 50, they're much higher. They can crank out all this stuff. You're still sitting at like maybe 5,000 health. You get one shot, and so it's kind of it's like the beginning and then the end. Middle is kind of easy. But that's
Yeah.
what we got on the hunts. Of course, there's so much more. I mean, we could literally spend hours and hours talking about hunts just because they're pretty awesome in this game. And like we said, we'll definitely come back to 12 at some point. Because there's so much more here to dig into that you just simply can't do in 3 podcast episodes. But we're going to transition into the seed trivia. If you weren't here with us last episode, it's one of our new little short segments we got. And yeah, let's get to it. So what we have this time is Alex did pass, so he's a rank 1 seed for last episode.
How much
But
money do I get for that?
it's an extra
My salary.
1,000. I told you, man. Contact your employer. You get
Oh yeah.
extra 1,000 on your checks. All right, so
Figure out what my base pay is.
yeah, exactly. So this week's we got 6 questions, so you need 4 in order to pass. All right, so here we go, and give you again to give everyone some backs. Like, I'm not choosing all super serious questions. I'm trying to get some difficult ones, but at the same time, we're low in the ranks, man. Let's make it fun, and so there's some fun ones in there. All right, here we go. Number 1. So in Final Fantasy VII, in regards to chocobo breeding, the carob nut is used to breed gold chocobos. Yes or no?
Yes.
All right. Number 2. Final Fantasy X. Keepa and Larbate. Interesting names, right? It's so hilarious, all the names and stuff. Keepa and Larbate are only ones with 99 shoot. So, okay, obviously Blitzball, sorry, I should have probably said that. So, in Blitzball, Keepa and Larbate are the only players that at max level, of course, so at max level, have 99 in shoot.
I know Keepa does, and I think it's Larbate has the 99 shoe. It's tricky with them because like the Kilika, they've got a whole bunch of players that get 99. But I'm gonna say yes.
All right. Final Fantasy X-2. LeBlanc needs to give back Uni's garment grid right now. Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
If you guys have, we love to make fun of. How can you not make fun of Final Fantasy X-2?
So
You give
ridiculous.
Uni's garment grid back right now.
It's so cheesy.
Oh,
I love
gosh.
that you do that in there. It's great.
All right, Final Fantasy 13. Some of these are hard, man. I would have no clue. Hope's highest strength weapon. Now, of course, so weapons, the weapon system in that, right? I'm basing it off of the starting weapon, because once you synthesize them all the way, the best weapons, they all have the same name, right? So
Right.
I couldn't, call it that. But so Hope's highest strength weapon is Malthus.
I don't even remember the name of that. I don't even recognize that. No.
Alright. Final Fantasy VIII. There are 11 level 10 cards.
No.
Alright, last one. Final Fantasy 15, which you will know this. Final Fantasy 15. Prompto's signature phrase is learning a new recipe.
No.
Alright, let's recap here. So, Final Fantasy VII, the first question. So, it is actually not the carob nut. Carob nut is for black chocobos. It's the Zio or Zio or whatever.
Zio nut.
Yep. So, no. Final Fantasy X. So, actually, Keepa is the only player that has 99 shoot.
What?
Larbate's at 96. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny, huh? Because Keepa goes from being a really crappy goalie to begin with anyways, but to become... And it's like, who would even use him as anyways?
I don't know. I mean, I guess once you get to that point, he's level 90-something. Dang, alright, so it's 96.
96, yeah, Keepa's the only one. Larbate is in second, but he's 96. Alright, Final Fantasy X too, yep. You definitely got it right. She needs to give it back.
Of course.
Final Fantasy V. So Hope's highest strength weapon is actually Simurg or whatever.
Yeah.
Not Malthus. I'm not gonna hold that one to you because, dude, same thing. Like, who would remember these names? Like, there's so many because you upgrade them and they get a new name, and so...
I kind of remember some, like Simurg and Alicanto and ones like that, but the one that you said, I don't think I ever used his high strength one, but I've seen it.
Yeah, Malthus is actually, it is the second highest, but it's the one that has, like, the same amount of magic and strength. It's up there very high, but Simurg or whatever is the best. Alright, Final Fantasy VIII, you got it right. There's actually only 10 level 10 cards, not 11. And then Final Fantasy 15, no, you're right, because it's Ignis. I have learned a new recipe!
Yeah, that's the only thing I know about that game, by the way.
Which is why I knew you would do that, right? So,
yep.
Alright, man, you passed. Barely. You missed 2, but you passed, so rank 2. Remember, I'm not gonna hold that Final Fantasy 13. I think that one was a little too hard. I can't get that obscure with these things.
Even the 7, I thought it was Carob Nut. I haven't played that game in so long. But yeah, the Zio Nut, now that you mention it, that's that one you can steal from the goblins or whatever, so.
Yep. So, alright, man. Rank 2 for Seed.
Oh yeah.
We'll keep the seed going in the next episodes, but let's get back to Final Fantasy 12 here. So moving on, we're gonna go into kind of rare spawns. We'll hit up both trophies and just kind of some random ones, that we encounter, that are whatever stand out. So the whole thing with the trophy rare spawns is they become available after you get out of the Draclor laboratory, right? So I think we discussed this. I don't think we've tested this, and I need to get to that point. I'm getting pretty close in my playthrough. I don't know how much you can do at that point. I think it's just obviously any of the places that you've unlocked and you've been, you can do those, I would imagine. It's just some of them are in the areas that I think you just can't reach yet because you can't finish it until after you finish Garavagan. So I think because you need the straw, I think is what it is. Well, and also I think there's some in Pharos. So I mean that's also why you can't finish it, because you need to get there. You need to have these spots unlocked.
Yeah.
So the problem is, the reason why I was getting to that is on my most recent playthrough that I got towards the end, I did the trophy spawns, and they were a joke. I mean, now granted, it was after Garavegan, I had Redis with me, and so, but it was just, it was a cakewalk. There was only one that gave me massive issues, and we'll get to that in a moment, but for the rest. So I'm saying that by, if you're doing the rare spawns, the trophy rare spawns, I would say try to do as many as possible after Draklor Laboratory. I mean, you know, it's, I don't know how challenging they would be. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't usually have problems with them either. I mean, granted, I also take them on when I have Redis, but you know, I'm just thinking like so many of them. If you go back, and they range in levels from like sort of mid 30s to 40s, 50s,
Yep.
and 60s, things like that. So it seems like, you know, you have to be doing a pretty low level run for all of them to be pretty challenging. You know, you've got ones like Ankh Boulder and Ankog, which are like the headless guys.
Yeah, well, and I
Paramina
was actually,
Rift.
I just pulled them up, and I was going to give you the stats on
Right.
Ankh Boulder, because that one was came to mind. It's only a level 29 or level 30 max, and he
Yeah,
only
they're really
he
low
only
level.
has 14,000 health. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
he's a lot of them are like that. A lot of them are just kind of lower, because you know, you got to think after Draklor, you're probably in the high 30s. Is probably, you know, low
It's
40s.
the high 30s, something
Yeah.
like that.
So I don't
'Cause,
know.
you know, that's how I've been doing it too. I mean, I'm going through them right now, and I haven't gotten very far yet, but I'm going by a guide and taking on the lowest level guys first. And then, you know, you've also got, so those two were one. I took on Archaeosaurus,
Yeah.
like one in the Pharaoh, or around the Pharaohs.
And
Uh,
you got Kaiser Wolf, which that one's pretty easy as well.
Super easy, right? I mean, you know, other than the conditions to get him to spawn, which I totally forgot about, you got to kill Lindber Wolf first,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
get
then
him.
then he comes up.
But yeah, really easy. Um, Honestly, I haven't gotten to a really tough one yet, but
No.
there are a whole bunch here. So
There are a lot, and just kind of keeping it specifically to the trophy rares. There was only two really that gave me issue. The first one was the Avenger, which he's the one that is in he is in Pharaohs. He's like one of those Bune guys, and he himself wasn't bad, but the problem is his spawn point is right in a kind of like little pod of other Bunes, and so like
Oh,
it was
yeah.
it was, and you know, and he's level 62, and so I definitely wasn't level 62. You know what I mean? I was probably in the low 50s. And so taking all that on, it was pretty hard. I mean, I don't think any of my party members died or anything, but you know, he definitely kind of gave Slide of a pause. Now the other one that we both agree on that is a jerk is Disma. That one, I mean, I think he's going to be hard for everyone. I mean,
yeah,
again, I was going in there. I was just really honestly what I was trying to do was get the treasure. I knew he was there. I was hoping he wasn't gonna spawn because I was trying to get the treasure. I think that's like a whale whisker or something that's back there. It was like a really good weapon that's in his room, and I went in there. Now, granted, this was the playthrough where all my players, I'm just round robining them out. As soon as one levels, I plug one in, and I tried that tactic on him, and it just did not work. I got him to critical twice, or the first time I got him to critical. I mean, he just starts going like I feel like we're a broken record here, but he goes berserk. He is insane. He just does not stop attacking. It is nonstop, over and over and over again. The only time you get a break is when he is casting a magic spell that's gonna hurt like crazy. You know what I mean? Like that's it. And so I think I failed twice. I gamed over twice. That's the only time I even gamed over in that game so far has been on him. And that's when I was like, okay, you know what? I need to actually finally get my good party members in with magic. And so I swapped out my party members, going against my code of ethics, you know, for that playthrough. And even then, it was crazy. He gets to that. He gets to critical, and attacks stop doing, like, they start doing literally like 60 damage, and he still has like 20,000 left. You know what I mean? And so he has a lot of health. And so basically all it was I had two people healing the tank non-stop while Bosch was sitting there casting flare over and over again. And that's how I beat him, was because I literally had to have the tank casting Kirog on himself. I had Ash casting Kirog on him just non-stop over and over and over. And he was living, and Bosch was doing flare. And that's the only way I beat him.
Yeah, and I did a little bit of research on this just to find out why he's so difficult to beat. And as it turns out, so he starts busting off those no charge attacks because apparently he gets CT 0, charge time 0 for magic and attacks when HP critical. And then another thing that I didn't know happens, and this is all pretty broken, man. I mean, this is pretty insanely overpowered stuff here, is that he ignores evade, reflect, and vitality.
Yeah.
So that's pretty crazy, actually. I forget all of the things that vitality affects, but it's a pretty important stat. And then also on top of that, the fact that he ignores evade. I mean, I know his magic attacks hurt in their AoE, but even his physical attack, when he's busting off combos, I know
Yeah.
it's just hard to keep people alive.
It is. I think vitality helps with like damage checks, because for some things, like, it takes into account like the weapons rating and blah blah blah. And I think maybe that's what it is for your character, is sometimes damage is checked against maybe like defense plus vitality. I don't know. We'd have to look into that.
Yeah, it'd be good to look into the parameters of stats and stuff,
But yeah, no, he is tough. He is a tough one, and no, that was pretty much it. I mean, he was pretty much the only tough one for me, other
yeah,
than
I'm
Avenger.
yeah, I'm gonna be interested to see how some of these other ones, but doing a little bit of research, apparently Glaring Eye is the highest level rare game. And I think I've never had a problem with that. I mean, I probably only killed it one time, but probably because I was really high level, and I think that's one that's in the Great Crystal at, a really, uh, probably around the area where you find Ultima,
Yeah, way
something
up
like
there.
that. But yeah, it's one of the ghost types, so Tower is second highest level.
Tower's in the Feywood, isn't he? Or
The Pharaohs should be up on like almost the top when you're going through the storyline.
gotcha. I'm trying to think of which
Somewhere
one.
like that.
Yeah, no, he's those model types, those enemy types can be pretty challenging at times.
Yeah. Larva Eater is another one. I remember this guy being pretty tough. He's the same type of enemy as like Diabolos and the little flying imp guys. So again, like combos and all that kind of stuff. But there's a whole bunch, man, and so I'm glad to be playing through this again because there's a lot that I don't really remember. Like Vagrant Soul and Luxolid are two of the N-type types that you find in the Pharaoh Subterra. But those guys, I mean,
Yeah.
anybody who's ever played Final Fantasy 12 knows the fear of like seeing an N-type and then you've got magic as gambits and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And so, you aggro one of those, you just gotta run. So
Yeah,
it'll
you
be fun
think
to get to those again.
Yeah, and you think back to like one of the first ones you encounter is at the Sandsea,
Yeah.
and you're like level 15 characters, and you got this massive thing rolling around and attacking you, killing you.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, they start busting off Firaga.
right. One that I forgot to toss in our list was Juggernaut. Now it's not like anything crazy. I mean, he's just like a golem. This is the one I was thinking about when I read Tower. It's in the Feywood, and it was just I just remember because my recent playthrough on the a little while ago, I was in the Feywood. I'm going through, and that kind of like golem model. they're there and around. So I'm going, I'm just killing everything, and then like I'm attacking this goal. I'm like, why the heck isn't it dying? Like what's going on? I got a character dead.
Yeah.
Like what is? And then I looked, and it's like, oh, it's a named one. It's Juggernaut, and so
Yeah.
because it's kind of fun and interesting. I like that they have rare game in this because if you don't know the requirements, whatever, a lot of them are just, chance on spawn, and you're not aware of them. It's like moments like that are pretty cool. I mean, it sucks sometimes when you're getting destroyed, but it's pretty cool that you're running around and all of a sudden there's an enemy that is like, it's special. It's not just a golem or, whatever. It's different, and so it's pretty cool. I really like that they did that, for Final Fantasy
Yeah.
12.
I actually encountered that guy on my playthrough too, just randomly. And you always know when something's going on, like you said, because you'll just be fighting, and then all of a sudden you're really struggling, and you're like, "What the, what's going on here?"
Yeah.
You look at you target them, and if their name's in red, you're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, they're a higher level and all that stuff." And yeah,
Yeah.
Juggernaut's a pretty good one.
Yeah, they're good stuff.
But another one that I always encounter too, I think a lot of people have had this because it's kind of deceptive. Like Neckbet is a cockatrice type of rare game. It's not a trophy rare game or anything like that, but it's just a regular rare game that spawns in the Damascus Ester Sand. And it just looks like a regular cockatrice. I'll be cruising around with, its little buddies and stuff, but you'll notice it has Protect, and I think it even has Bravery at that point.
Yeah.
And I mean, I always encounter that, when I've got a four-person team with Bosch as like an extra guest. Dude, he just kicks your butt. I mean, he's straight up, he uses mucus, he gets to that point where he starts, I think he hits for like 80 or 90 damage, which at that point when you have like 370 HP is crazy. So that's a common one I often encounter. Even though it's like a 20% spawn rate, I seem to always get that one to spawn.
It's funny, man, because on the playthrough I'm doing right now, I was actually trying very hard to get him to spawn. Like I zoned in and out many, many, many times. I never did it. Yeah, I never got
Seems
him
like
to spawn, and so
yeah, it's like when you want them to spawn, they won't.
yeah,
And you'll get those
seriously.
random ones.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, but and even on and again, we're kind of just more talking about just regular rare game at this point. But it's kind of interesting with some of the requirements for the rare spawns to even show up, right? So we got like the percentage of entering in the area. So that's one of them, of course, and that's usually the easiest one because a lot of those you can just zone in and zone back out. But actually, some of them I think have a percentage of spawning when you enter like the entire zone, and so I think you have to like leave all the way and then come back. I'm trying to remember which one. Which
No,
that's
you're right on that.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
that's a little harder, because you get all the way there and it's like and then, so you got to go all the way back out, come all the way back in, see if it's there. Pretty
Yeah,
annoying
you've got
stuff.
the ones where you have to zone out two zones. You've got the ones where you can just go out of that one zone and back in, and it might work.
Right.
One of the weird ones, I just want to point this out because I did this recently, just going through like the rare game list, all 80 of them. Uh, it's like one of the crocodile types called Greedon in Damascus Estersand.
You gotta.
And this one,
It's,
I swear,
it sucks.
I don't know how you'd figure that out, though. Honestly, I mean, how you do this without a guide is beyond me, because you have to not kill any of the cactoids and remain
Yep.
in the area for 3 minutes, which
3 minutes. Yep.
so weird. And this guy, I took him on at like level 30. It was just, I like killed him in 3 hits.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the one that you want to take on maybe like level 15 or so, but I just don't understand. Like that's such a complicated, I mean, in my opinion, because it's like when are you ever going to stay in that area for 3 minutes?
Yeah, I don't know how you
For
can
one.
stay in that area for 3. There's nothing to
Right.
do.
Right, and then not killing any cactoids. It's just, I mean, granted, they're neutral enemies and all that, but
Yeah.
still, I never got that. I had to look that one up. I could never get it to spawn.
Yeah. It's there's the few that you got to be in the area, but some of them are just you just have to be in the area, and of course keep this in mind too, because I wanted to test it out just to see and be sure, but when you fast forward, it doesn't actually fast forward game time, and so. I was like I was trying to get one of the minute ones, and fast forward, and after 15 seconds, I'm like, oh, let's do it, and then I get there and he's not there. I'm like, what's going on? But it's because obviously you're not fast forwarding real life time, so just something to keep in mind. But no, I mean that's what it is. Like there's a lot of them. You got to do it. Well, and some of the trophy games too. Like what is the one? Oh, I don't know. I can't remember, but a lot of them are you got to just kind of be in the area for a little while. There's that one that you be in the longer you're in the area, or like what is it, like every second it increases by like 1% chance of spawning or something like that. I'm trying to remember what that was, but just very interesting. It's kind of like you said, like I have the guide, and it's like if I didn't. I don't know how in the heck you would know some of this stuff or even think to like, oh, I know, let me just sit in this place for 3 minutes. Something's gonna spawn if I do that. Like, no.
It's just pure random chance, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Here it is. It's XII, right? And it's in the Barheim Passage. Yeah. It says the odds of XII appearing increase by 2% every 10 seconds the party spends. Like, how would you know that? You know what I mean? Like,
also, we gotta like talk about some of the lore and mythology behind these names too. I just love it. Like, how do you come up with Ishteen? Okay,
Ishteen, yeah, Vishnu.
Yeah, well, that's the one I'm gonna get to. Yeah, I mean, some really weird spawn parameters. You've got things like you have to get certain chains of enemies in the area, like Barmu, one of those facer types, the really weird enemies and stuff in Tomb of Wraithwall. And then Vishnu is one in the Pharos that I think veterans of Final Fantasy XII will know this one, and I mean I certainly did because back in the day before the Zodiac Age, if you wanted a ribbon, this was one of the earliest ways to get it, because he has I believe it's a rare drop, and it's like a 1% chance, but it's just like, oh man.
Well, it's a ribbon.
If only you could get that ribbon. Yeah, exactly. But for that one, you don't actually have to get a chain, but you do have to kill at least 10 of the Daidar enemies, which are like the other faces around the area.
Yeah.
Just that one's not too tricky, but like Barmu again, it's hard enough in the Tomb of Wraithwall to get a 12 chain. So you really have to be intentional about it.
You have to, because, well, okay, in case anyone doesn't know, in the Tomb of Wraithwall, you got to kill the bats, and so you kind of have to run back and forth a couple times, don't you? In order to get it, to get enough 12 bats. Like that's not easy to do.
Right, or if you go through the areas, you've got to, stick to the skeletons or the zombies and avoid everything else. I mean, it's tricky.
Right.
It's not something you would normally do if you weren't trying to do, in other words. I mean, and really that area is not that great. It's not that lucrative for chaining enemies anyways. So it's not something I would normally do. There's not that, you don't have a huge amount of just one type of enemy that constantly respawns.
They're just bats, so why kill them? They don't drop really anything good. Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, lots more to dig into, of course, with Rare Game, as everything else in Final Fantasy XII. The more you talk about, the more you discover, and more you want to talk about, is how it kind of goes. But let's transition into our bold move short segment. If you've been listening to our other podcasts, you know exactly what it is. So let's kick it off. And to give some backstory on Bold Move, if you're not sure what it is Alex and I will pick one situation, scenario, or character action over any of the Final Fantasies that we feel was kind of a bold move. And so what I chose is one that's, maybe not too obscure that you think about, but Final Fantasy VIII, Squall's out in space. He's flying to, to Earth, and I know I'm just gonna like get out of an escape pod to go try to find someone in the middle of space. Because that's something that's very easy to do. Is I'm just gonna jump out and float around. That's a bold move. I don't know what Squall was thinking. Well, I know what he was thinking, but that's that's crazy.
Yeah, that really was a crazy part. Seriously. For mine, it's got to be. I was thinking about this earlier, and I remembered that one part in Final Fantasy X when you're at what is it? Oh shoot, Guadasalam, and Titus basically hits on Lulu, or you have the option of hitting on Lulu, and telling her that she's more his type. That part, that is such an awesome part. And then I love how if you do that option, she's like, I suppose I could add you to my list, and I wish you luck, little boy. You're gonna need it.
You're gonna need it. Yeah.
So, bold move, Titus.
Bold move. Yeah. What is up with Final Fantasy X and how Titus is always like given the option to hit on all these chicks? Well, hey, but what if she comes on to me? It's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen, brother. Yeah, no, they have, and that would be an interesting topic when we get to 10. We might add this in there. It's one of the few Final Fantasies that has an inbuilt affection system by points based on your interactions with the characters and how often you talk to them, which is super interesting because you can have it going with Lulu, you can have it going with Riku, and I think there's even a point system with Auron, weirdly enough. So it's cool.
He's a bold move guy, isn't he?
Exactly.
All right, so that is this episode's bold move, and we're actually gonna end it here for this podcast. Kind of ran over on time here, so we're gonna save Gambits for just a future episode at some point. But next episode, we are gonna be in a new Final Fantasy. We haven't quite decided what, but we're gonna take a step back from 12, and we'll kind of just branch out from there. And of course, we're gonna come back to 12. Absolutely, how can you not? And so we'll get to Gambit some other time. But thank you all for staying with us and listening and just hanging out. I'm Mark.
I'm Alex.
And this is Final Stop for Final Fantasy Talks.